Alright, I'm going to walk you through how to make an oblique pictorial sketch. So remember that word pictorial means picture-like, and for us that means it is going to be a 3D type of sketch. So I'm going to start by making a dot out here on my engineering notebook, and we're going to basically be making an L shape, and so the width of that L shape is going to be 1 inch. So I'm going to go over 4 spaces and then 1/4 inch grid spacing. 4 spaces would be 1 inch. And I'm going to make it 1 1/4 inches tall. So I'll go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces here. And then I will make that L shape have a 1/2 inch on those L features. So I'm going to go ahead and sketch in the lines that I need. And to make an oblique sketch, the first thing you're going to want to do, like we just did, is draw the front view. From there, from that front view, you're going to want to add depth lines at 45 degrees. And so one way that we can know 45 degrees on our grid paper is just use a diagonal line straight through those grid spaces. And so if I make a point there and I want my depth of this to be a 1/2 inch, we're going to be creating a cavalier oblique drawing, so I'm going to make my depth a 1/2 inch. I'm going to draw that line out to a 1/2 inch, and I'll do that from all of these corners. Last one. Alright, when you have all those depth lines drawn out, you can then add the height line back in for that and connect your lines. I'll put a width line in the backside for that, put a height line in right here, and I'll put another width line in back there to finish off the sketch. The last thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and label this. This is a cavalier oblique. That means the depth is full. So we made it a 1/2 inch. So we actually drew it a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to write that in here. It's a cavalier oblique. And that means that it is drawn to full depth. Alright, last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do some shading to this. So one way we can add tonal shading is by creating a series of lines. So I'm drawing these lines straight up and down. And if you want to use your own shading technique that you've learned, that's fine as well. So on this front face, I'm going to then cross-hatch those lines to make this side of the object have a darker appearance. Now on the right side, so if I'm looking at the right of this object, I'm just going to put these vertical lines in so it appears to be a little bit lighter on that side. And that will add the effect of some shading to your sketch. Alright, so we're going to draw the same exact sketch right next to it over here. except this time we're going to do what's called a cabinet oblique. So again, I'm going to mark my points that I need to. Sketch in the front view of the object. And this time when we put in our depth lines, a cabinet oblique is half depth. And so I'm going to draw these depth lines instead of the full ½ inch, I'm going to draw them 1/4 inch. Cabinet oblique drawings, this technique was developed to make the depth half because it made it a more realistic picture-like image when we do that. And so someone figured out a long time ago that if we make the depth half, it looks more realistic than if we made it full depth. So once you have that done, you can go ahead and label this one. This is a cabinet oblique. And it is half depth. Last thing I'm going to do is add some shading to this one, just like I did the other one. And so I'll use the series of vertical and horizontal lines to show that shading effect. You would like to use a straight edge for this if you have trouble making those lines nice and neat, straight. Take your time and use a straight edge, and just the more you practice, the easier it will become. So that takes care of that side. Lastly, we'll add some lines on the right side of the object. Show that. So there are your oblique sketches examples, the Cavalier oblique and the cabinet oblique.